Whoa, welcome back, everybody, to Higher Density Living. Could you have predicted that we would have been podcasting today?
No.
Was this prophesized that we would be here behind the mic?
Well,
what was the probability?
Probabilities. So let's get into, I want to make sure that we understand exactly where we're going with the FIGU.
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 Figu is the...
It's an Italian...
It's a figu. It's a smart car, you know? No, the Figu. It's a free community of interest is the English translation from the German term, and it's the non-profit group out of Hinterschmidt-Rudi, Switzerland, that was started and operated by Billy Edward Albert Meier until the group had expanded to a core group of 49 members, which currently work and reside at the Semjase Silver Star Center. But what does that mean? What does that mean?
For me, what that means is that there are some heavy-duty individuals that are taking this information that have been celestial information that has been given to us, and then making sure that they're good stewards of it, and then disseminating it into the world and making sure...
Fucking nailed it. That's exactly correct.
Publications, I know you can buy the books.
Right.
So how many of them are from, just so people can know, how many of them are in English? Some people are from Germany, so they can just buy them.
Yeah, they can just get them. So the Meier material and contact reports are all in German. And they slowly get translated into English. Of the 60-plus books that he has written, and who knows how many pamphlets, only, I would say, 9 or 10 of the books are actually translated in English, leaving the last 50 or whatever completely in German. So that's it.
And Michael Horn, that we had on the podcast, we encourage everybody to listen to him. We even you guys got into the whole discussion on what people say Billy Meier is like UFOs or not. And a lot of people don't understand, but the I Want to Believe poster
for X-Files.
The show is the Billy Meier.
It's the Billy Meier one. It was actually taken on the farm fields in Hinterschmidt-Rudi by that log pile that used to be out there.
Right.
And why was there a log pile? Because on the property, they make money from logging also. That's the beautiful part about Switzerland and its nice trees. Now, what we want to talk about is, like, there are many people in the comments of that previous episode that I did with Michael Horn saying, go over the prophecies. Talk about the Henoch prophecies. So, like, what is, people are like, we want to hear about it. So we're going to hear about it right now. But before we do that, it breaks down into 3 things that have to be fundamentally understood here so we understand what's going on. So
what's the 3 things?
Probability, prediction, and prophecy. Not the same things. They're all different. Okay? So, what is a prophecy? A prophecy says that human beings are on a specific path. Okay? And this path will prophetically lead us to a point for better or worse sometime in the future. Prophecies can be changed. The point of them is to act as a warning signal. To say that if you continue this, this is what will occur deep into the future. It's prophesized that this will occur. All right? So they don't have to happen exactly. It's just saying, but if you continue your course, you keep fucking up, this is where you're going to be.
Right.
Prophecy, okay? Can be changed. Predictions. When we use the term prediction in English, what do you think about?
When prediction is like something that is like, I predict the stock to go to, I take a bunch of data and some analysis, and then I'm an expert in that arena. So in turn, I can take that information and then predict something. It may or may not come true.
See, this is the problem with English. And the way the Plejarens have spoken about this is the word prediction, if you split it, is predictation. It's predicted, which tells you that this thing will 100% guaranteed occur. It's predictated.
That makes sense.
It's like it's saying it's already been said. Okay? That cannot be changed.
So that's totally different than what we view it as.
When we view prediction,
right,
we mix that with a thing called possibility or probability.
Yes.
Right? There's a probability that this thing will occur.
Right.
Predicted dictated is saying that even if it's like a law, the law is already written. It's pre-dictated.
Right.
This thing is already there. This will already occur. There's no probability associated with it.
So let's say a law of nature, whatever it may be, evolution, let's say, that's a law that's there.
It's pre-dictated.
Yeah.
It's predicted.
Right.
It will always and continue to occur foreseeably and immutably forever into the future.
Right.
Okay? So a prophecy, in review, is something that here is our general path. This is prophesizing that we will occur and these things can happen if we don't change our course. Okay? For better or worse. A prediction says 100% of a fact this thing will occur. Okay? And then the last thing you have is probability. What is probability? What is the chance?
Yeah, what is the chance of this happening, right?
Correct. Okay? Do we see that?
Mm-hmm.
Good. Now we have the framing of these things. So, if we go back and if you look at the Meier material, Meier has had many incarnations, okay, as different personalities, all sharing the same internal spirit form, but carrying these things forward and learning things over time. And if you go way, way back to one of his earlier incarnations, the name was supposedly called Henoch. I don't know because I wasn't there. I'm just taking it from what I'm being told here and what I'm reading. Now, Henoch wrote these original prophecies, things that talk about the future and where humanity is headed if we don't change our course with specific things in time. All right? When that was written, after it was translated from an old language called Lyran, which was the proto-language to German.
Right.
Okay? It was in that sort of not 100% totally clear, almost Nostradamus-y kind of vibe, where you don't want to create too much fear in people and they just start like rioting in the streets and stuff's crazy.
Oh, of course, right.
But it affords enough of a trigger to cause them to think.
Right.
Billy Edward Albert Meier, in his current incarnation right now, asked the Plejarens to help reiterate what these prophecies were, but in a more clarifying and modern format than what they were written by as Henoch. You tracking with me on this?
I also think, like with the raw teachings, we have to understand when a group, and we like to use, because we're so individualistic here.
Mm-hmm.
So when a group is speaking, especially if it's a higher density, it's not just like Nostradamus in the future talking to us now, and he's floating in the sky, and it's one individual.
Yeah.
So there could be a group. A group could have millions and millions of souls, or whatever you want to call it, in it.
Yep.
And then collectively they can communicate, which we don't understand in third density.
Our little feeble minds.
Yeah, but we have to get that whenever, like, it's so funny because it's always like, with channeling, a lot of people are like channeling like some Roman centurion back in the, 1800s or whatever, and I'm not saying that it's bullshit, but what I am saying is whenever you have a group, you're getting collective consciousness that's streaming that down to you.
Correct.
Not just Henoch. Henoch may be a collective. We don't know.
The spirit of Henoch, the spirit of Henoch, right, of Billy Edward Albert Meier, the spirit has a name. It's this thing called Nocodemion. It's the name it chose. I don't know what the fuck it translates to. Now, it lives at a level where it's completely immaterial.
Mm-hmm.
Sixth density.
Yes.
And the Plejaren call that level Arahat Atharsata, which is a Sanskrit term that translates to the one who watches time. Because if you're not physical, you live outside of the physical. You only live in time.
Yeah, 100%.
So you watch time occur, right?
Right.
It's a really interesting state to be in. Okay. Now, that's what that thing is. And there are other highly evolved things that stay at Arahat Atharsata level. Arahat Atharsata level. That's so hard to say. So what is coming down here, what is being pulled, is information that the Plejaren, in conjunction with that level, that like sixth dimensional level,
right,
culminate these prophecies to then reshare them again in a modern format.
So how do you think the translation is misused? Like in the Bible, it's that way.
Mm-hmm.
So whether it was obviously it was a collective conscious stream with some of it, and then we know Jesus, fourth density, all that stuff.
Sure.
So, and then by the time the translations hit, it's like, let's remove this book. This doesn't line up with the dogma of religion.
Great question. So from how their technologies describe the Plejaren, they have drives, and they're things they call beam ships, right? They're UFOs, to move through time. So they don't have to lose any part of the translation. They can actually go back to the time and converse with the individual during the time of its incarnation in the physical
That makes
and
sense,
get the
yes.
exact fact of it without any misunderstanding and mistranslation. Do you track with me on this?
Yeah. So I'm talking about present time third density when we get a hold of the material.
Right. So,
Like I could translate
see what you're
raw.
saying.
I could translate the law of raw and be well intentioned. And still get mess up.
You're exactly
if it was
correct.
a different language.
You're exactly correct. So the information here, the conversation that Billy Edward Albert Meier is speaking to this extraterrestrial called Quetzal,
Right.
who is a Plejaren, who's also called an Isvish, which was translated to like a
They make pretzels, right?
Yeah.
Quetzal.
Yeah, correct. Quetzal the pretzel. They make he was considered a king of wisdom in their culture. All right. Very intelligent, highly evolved being. Their conversation is he is going to directly read this recorded information to Billy in conversation to reiterate it in the modern format. Now, translational errors. In the 300 plus contact reports, which I have read personally, there was only one error in grammar and speech. One.
To English?
No, in German. There are many inconsistencies with translating German into English.
Yeah, that's where I'm getting at. It's the same way
Okay.
if you took Hebrew or Greek and then translated it over.
And it's simple. Like, let me give an example. In German, there is a word. The word for pen is called Stift. Okay, Stift, S-T-I-F-T, Stift. Now, if you want to call something a pencil, right? We have pen and pencil. But does that give you context into what the difference is between both of them?
No, I have to know the object.
Precisely correct. Now, in German, it's different. So in German, you have Bleistift, and Blei is lead. And so the combination of Blei and Stift, which is the writing
This is
utensil,
a lead pencil.
is a lead pencil, correct. You track with me on this?
Yeah, because it's using a descriptive engineering type word.
And that's
what German is.
And that's what German is. And then opposed to English, we have all these concepts and they're not totally clear. And that's why a lot of the context, without perfectly knowing German, gets lost in the English translation.
So my point of this is whenever we read all these different types of teachings, some are false, some are true, whatever. But we have to understand you can't get into religious dogma where you think like 100% every word is inspired from sixth density.
Oh.
Yeah, or this is coming from God, or this is coming from sixth density, or this is coming from raw. You have humans involved in all of this process. Third density beings.
Be rational and take a small, healthy dose of skepticism and do the research yourself.
But don't you think that it could be an idea transmuted?
Sure.
More than getting into, because we always get into the specifics. Like, I want to ask them about Bigfoot, and then I want to know, primates, and then where were they at? How were they involved? We want historical details.
Yeah.
And the historical details are not as important as looking and seeing what humanity has caused due to its heart condition.
Precisely correct. And so what we're talking about here is what has humanity caused now that can lead to illnesses in the future? Fair? And can we change it? Absolutely can. And that's the point of the prophecy. And by the way, as we go through these prophecies, they're not pleasant. And if you look at the culmination of everything we're doing with humanity and our cultures and the way we treat each other and our complete lack of understanding, you can see why these prophecies are so negatively outlined. Okay. So let's kick into this. What's our first category?
So this was presented by Pretzel. Isn't there like a Quetzal like in the mall? What's the pretzel place? People are going to be able to tell me. It's something like that.
All I know is Annie Ann's.
Or Quiznos. That's subs.
Quiznos, yeah.
Yeah, so this is the 215th contact, Saturday, February 28th, 1987 at 2 o'clock in the morning.
Okay, so this is a conversation at 2 o'clock in the morning to bring into a modern format what the Henoch Prophecies were written thousands of years ago, which was a previous incarnation of Billy Edward Albert Meier. Great.
And so Quetzal says this, and I think it's really important that we understand this. Before I give you a clear account of the prophecies of Henoch,
Mm-hmm.
I would like to point out that prophecies are always changeable.
Ah, good. So he just confirmed what I was talking about.
The first
That's
sentence.
great. Yep.
And can be changed for the better if man makes positive changes in his thoughts, feelings, and actions,
Great.
leading to that which is better and positively progressive. So they're looking at this as being we've watched so much sci-fi shit with this, but it's like the timeline changes.
Yeah.
So it's not like people have looked at Notre Dame's prophecies or whatever, and we'll get into Notre Dame's later, and they're like, well, this has to happen on this date and it's immutable.
Chill the fuck out, guys.
Yeah.
Unless it says it's happening on this date and it's immutable, then it's not a prediction. It's a prophecy.
Prophecies always rest upon specific causes. So here's
good.
a law.
The law of cause and effect. Interesting.
These, again, result in certain effects. Ha-ha.
I'm going to throw this chair. This shit's so obvious.
Whereby these effects can be changed at any time if only the preceding causes are changed in their form. And I think the word form is very important there.
Yeah. Say, for instance, it's not going to be like, there's going to be a big war and we're not going to use nukes. We're just going to do full blitzkrieg without nukes. The form is still exactly the same.
Yes.
You're not actually changing the
War.
cause.
Right,
It's still war.
Right.
All right. That's my example.
No, I love it. I think of form as because obviously when we think of form, we're thinking of it in third density.
Uh-huh.
When you begin to step out of third density and you begin to look at formless and then form, it's totally different definition.
Yes.
What Quetzal is thinking the word form is totally different than ours.
Absolutely.
Because he's not bound by any of these laws.
No.
He's not bound by gravity. He's not bound by...
No, Quetzal is just, he is a being, he's living, he walks, he talks, he breathes.
Right.
But his consciousness is extremely highly evolved. So the matter of his functions of thought are not always physical.
Right. So as we begin to change our consciousness collectively, the matrix changes.
Absolutely. The way you perceive the world and the way things happen is going to be fundamentally different. And that's what is being said here. If we as a group can change these causes in form,
right,
we can then alter the effects which are prophetic in our future.
He says, therefore, it is possible that negative or evil prophecies do not have to be fulfilled if the preceding causes will be purposely changed in a manner that positivity and good develop instead of negativity and evil.
Pretty straightforward.
So that's straightforward.
Yeah, thank you.
So Billy Meier gets into a conversation with him right off the bat, and he talks about World War II, and he's talking about, he's being hopeful. He's saying things are changing.
Yeah.
Humanity's changing. The earth is, getting better. And we can see this slowly. Even now, I think we're in this transitional change.
Big transitional change.
Of where you have things being very pronounced,
Mm-hmm.
and you need clarity before you can shift into the fourth density.
Yep.
So, because fourth density is all about like wisdom and love and
Correct. And understanding.
yeah. So you need clarity to have understanding. That's a great point.
100% do. Yeah.
So he's getting into this whole idea and Billy Meier's kind of looking at it from the here and now.
Yep.
What's going on? This is the earth. This is where we're at. And he's having like this hopeful view where Quetzal says, you apparently never give up hope. Your optimism is honorable and deserves to be heard by human beings. So he's reaffirming the message. But he says, human beings have developed throughout this century. There is not too much hope that human beings of Earth will come to their senses and heed your words.
Yeah.
So it seems like a very negative statement.
So
Almost kind of like deflating.
yeah, it kind of blows. Let me tell you why. They have been having conversations, Billy Edward Albert Meyer said he's been having conversations with the Plejaren since the 50s.
Mm-hmm.
Billy's been writing material since the late 50s, early 60s, from a very young age. And no one listens.
Mm.
And so they're just saying, because of the past and how people have reacted to what you have shared, no one's doing anything. This is probably what people are going to react to this with me sharing this again to you about the information.
Yeah, and he says, probably only then will the time come when the defamations against you will end in regard to your contacts with us.
Yeah, so the point is that he's saying here is that in the future when people were like, shit, this guy was right, people are going to be like, oh yeah, he wasn't a fucking fraud, like blah, 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 all that other stuff.
Yeah, I like how he says pathological know-it-alls and critics.
We know him. I've met
who
plenty
dismiss
of them.
them as swindle, lies, and fraud. Well, I was watching a whole thing the other day on the CIA coming in with crop circles. And, because like obviously some crop circles are false.
Yeah.
And how you can tell is they take the wood board
and they
smash them. Mm-hmm. They were showing other crop circles that are geometrically perfect.
And they also got this like weird burning thing that happens.
Yeah, they have meteorites that they found, but they have this one that they did where they were communicating back and forth. Like we sent a radio message in like the 1990s.
Uh-huh.
And then we sent it in some binary message. They sent it back to us on a crop circle. 28 years later.
So someone sent back an answer to the thing we sent out.
Yeah.
What did we send out?
Oh,
don't tell me you don't know.
I know, but we'll have to look it up. We need to do a whole episode on this. But this crop circle, the flowers have budded on where the crop was at, and none of the flowers were moved. It was so gently laid down. See, human can't do that.
No.
You can also see trails where people had walked and stuff like that. So, but this is what I want to get at. So the CIA had paid two guys in that same city in England where most of the crop circles are happening.
Yeah.
In that same countryside, to say that here's how we do it. And then they had videos and fundings and they did a whole crop circles website.
Right.
So we have to understand that governments will come in, these pathological know-it-alls and critics.
Yep.
And they're going to call this like, they're going to have well-planned
things to counter it.
What do you call it? Where they do all the, we did it in the United States for World War II to get people pumped up for World
Propaganda?
War II. Yes.
Mm-hmm.
So the governments and agencies and negative entities are going to have perfect propaganda.
Yeah.
To dispute this. So you have to understand that.
If you tell a lie big enough and long enough, it becomes the truth. Who said that?
That was
Goebbels.
Yeah.
Nazis. Remember?
Yeah, Nazis.
Yeah, the United States really took to that quick.
Yeah, we're one of the best at propaganda.
Uh-huh.
So Quetzal says, "I will do that in a moment," because he's talking to Billy about a personal thing.
Yeah.
But I would like to explain before beginning that I'm not authorized to give exact indication of years in an official manner.
Yeah, the reason for that, and for people that are hearing this for the first time, there's a lot of context, right? There's years of conversations that go to this. Mm-hmm. The reason for that is so that people do not get into an insane state of fear or then start to use the information for strictly material gain. Say, for instance, someone's going to prophesize that our stock market would crash. What would you do?
Oh, yeah, go short.
I'd put out puts on everything.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, see, all right, there we go.
And he talks about, like, if the timeline is the same and humans continue to indulge in the same actions,
mm-hmm.
then the prophecies of Henoch could not be any clearer.
There we go.
So he's at this point at 2:00 in the morning. The timeline is this.
Yeah.
So the timeline could have changed even now.
Absolutely.
And we're going to see some, and this is what I want people to understand. Some of the things that we hear and see today don't align. Some of them do align
because the timeline has changed. That's the whole point of the prophecy.
Yeah, and so he gets into Pope and he gets into Rome, and it's so funny that he starts off with Europe. All of Europe will then fall victim to a terrible punishment by evil powers. The Christian religion will collapse, and the church's monasteries will end up in ruins and ashes. We're seeing that happen now.
Yeah.
Membership is declining in denominations all across the world. Millennials are not they're 40. You're a millennial, right?
Yeah, thank you.
Yeah, your age group is not, attending church.
No.
The Catholic Church is just viewed as some, ancient, perverted.
Well, and here's the other problem. We have way more UFO craft sightings, right?
Yes.
And it's become more public.
Mm-hmm.
Then how is the church supposed to counter something that is direct physical evidence?
This is so funny because I was doing meditation, and this is one of the things that during meditation is that any type of religion that does not evolve and adapt it's a clear sign right there.
That's really big of you to say that.
But you know what I mean? Like,
can we share why that's big of you? What are you in your past? What'd you go to school for?
Oh yeah, Christianity. Yeah, like big time pastor.
Were you a pastor?
Stuff. Yes. Dogma. Belief.
That's huge for you to say something like that.
Yeah, 100%. Yeah. I'm not opposed to Christian mystics or Catholic mystics or
Jewish mystics,
Kabbalah, all that stuff. The Plejarens
Sufi mystics.
The Plejarens have lots of info on that.
Tons.
And a lot of that is truth. If you begin to seek the truth. But so when you look at them when the Catholic Church comes out and says, "Yeah, we're not too sure on the UFOs. We're not too sure on women's rights. We're not too sure on, the free will of people." Then you have to look at that's an old dogma that is going bye-bye.
Correct.
It's not evolving.
So we're here. It's prophesized that this thing in our coming future will continue to crumble and fall away.
And he says monstrous forces will be created by science and will be released by the military forces and armies as well as by terrorists.
Okay, so to give context to this, on other material they have talked about, 2 things they say you got to watch out for. You ready?
I'm going to guess one.
Go ahead.
Genome.
No. No.
CRISPR.
Nope. They're huge proponents for genetic modification. AI implanted into weaponry.
Yeah, that's a big
They said that's one. Number 2 is scalar weapons. Said those are your 2 issues with warfare going forward.
Well, we don't realize, but ancient humans have dealt with this same situation a long time ago.
And we're repeating it again.
Yes, exactly.
And so
that's what
like,
they see.
They're like, hey, we've been through this.
Yes.
Don't do it.
Yeah, you blew Earth up before.
Yes. Not the first
Don't
time.
do it again. So he says this, and I think this is really interesting. And I really love this part about millions and even billions of people will be killed by acts of terrorism, by wars and civil wars. And finally, in some parts of the world, every 3rd human being, and in other places, every 4th human being will lose his or her life. The nations of the East will rise against the nations of the West. We're seeing this right now.
With Russia and China.
The West against the East. Many deaths will be inflicted upon the people by fighter and bomber aircraft, and bombs and rockets will destroy and annihilate smaller and larger villages and cities. I mean, you can see this in Russia and Ukraine right now.
I know. And who's getting squeezed? Everybody in Central Europe.
Yes. And then next thing you know, if it doesn't stop, people don't realize how we're on the cliff's edge of World War III. Because we have China and Taiwan. We have naval presence heavy.
Over in the South China Sea, currently right now, just north of the Philippines.
So this is like a whole... This is what people don't understand. When you look at the history of World War I and World War II, this is how they start.
Yeah.
Multiple small conflicts with an ideology that will not stop.
Pushed into a larger global conflict and then exacerbated by economic need and greed.
Yes, because you need the military industrial complex wants all of this. All of the above.
Yeah, of course.
So seeing, and we saw this in the Afghans, you go over there and you see villages just destroyed. The people will be completely powerless against all this and will live through 888 days of hell on earth.
See, that's not good. So that's a little bit, you're talking about a full-on global conflict for, what, 2.5 years?
Yes.
That's fucked.
That could be World War III for 2.5 years.
That's people just bombing, shooting, nuking, poisoning for 2.5 years.
And it says suffering hunger and plagues, which will claim even more lives than the war itself. So I like the word plagues. The Bible uses the word plagues too. It's just meaning like what we experienced. Like you take COVID and make it 10 times worse.
Yeah.
That's a plague.
You know why it gets worse? Say you are, say you're Russia. What are you going to attack? Pharmaceutical production areas.
Yes.
New Jersey, bye-bye.
Raleigh, Durham,
Virginia,
Boston.
bye-bye. Boston, bye-bye.
That's where all the tech is. Yeah.
Right. And so when you eradicate centers where vaccines are created and stored, plagues spread even faster than we currently have right now. People currently have plagues in hospitals.
100%.
But we have vaccines that are readily available in supply to give to these people to counteract these things. Now, what happens if you are a warring nation and you want to do damage to another population? Go to the places that keep them healthy.
Yes, 100%.
That's why plagues get worse.
I also think if you don't want to release nukes, why not just release a bioweapon?
Well, interesting part about bioweapons, Japan killed a little over 735,000 people in southern China by infecting plague-borne fleas and ticks, released into the area as a massive study to see how it would affect people. Killed 730,000+ people. That's an atrocity.
Yeah, that's almost.
What are you going to do? Stop the bugs? No, they flew over in planes, just dumped them out.
Yeah, I mean, look how easy that would be to do.
It's horrific.
I mean, it's that simple. We've done stuff like that before.
Yep.
The time will be severe as never before experienced on Earth. That sounds intense to me.
Yeah, you want something.
So they're looking at the whole timeline of Earth.
Yeah.
Millions and millions of years.
And this is the worst.
And this will be the worst.
I don't like the way that sounds.
Ultimately, nothing can be bought or sold any longer. All provisions will be rationed. And if a human being steals even a small piece of bread, he or she will have to pay for it with his or her life.
So let's consider the reality of this context. We get into a global conflict. How much stuff do we import? You know, people are going to get shot over avocados.
Mm-hmm.
Grocery stores won't exist.
Mm-mm.
All this stuff goes away. If we continue into global conflict, people understand how to attack supply chains because it's what we're heavily reliant on.
Yeah, and it gets into ideologies with Islam, and I thought this was interesting too, is like Islam will attack Europe. So you're looking at China, Russia, issues there.
Yeah.
Then all of a sudden, World War happens because you've got the Middle East start getting involved.
Mm-hmm. And then
now that's a world war.
And then there's now an opportunity for fundamentalists to step in at a weakened point in these other nations to then say, hey, now it's time for us to pay back.
Yeah, and I think for us to understand this is that the timeline can change. And this sounds horrific, and people need to. I think the message needs to be this morbid.
I agree.
So that people can say. So to close out this episode before we get into, because we're going to get another horrific one. We're going to get into weapons.
They don't get any easier.
And World War III.
Yeah.
But I want to take time and get specific with that. Changing timelines. Changing your own timeline.
Yeah.
Looking at this prophecy and saying, what can I do? Because he used the word helpless. You know, at that time, people will be helpless because cause and effect has already happened.
At that point.
But
before, we have an opportunity.
Yeah, and what can we do as individuals?
Don't be a know-it-all. Show love. Start to understand. Petition against your governments in their, pushes to do things that are global police efforts or go into conflicts that they really don't belong in. Do not agitate other cultures. Do not do those things. Really understand, respect people, and let them continue on their own free will and remain neutral but positive for the future and expand upon that understanding.